Hold on for a second. What's up, YouTube family? I would like you guys to make sure you like and subscribe to our video. It would help us get into the algorithms so we could be seen and bring more engaging content to you guys. So, like I said, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Appreciate it. And welcome to another edition of the Pick and Downs podcast. I'm your host, per usual, Sean Tyson, here with Zoo and Peebush. How you fellas doing?
Doing well, man. We were talking pre-production. Chicago's hinting at that spring weather, man, but they just don't want to let it go. It's been sad, man, but kind of in that Chicago Bulls, I'm actually going to the game tomorrow night against the Cavaliers. Let's hope Donovan Mitchell doesn't drop 70 on us this time. And maybe the Bulls can pull off a nice little Central Division dub for you, Zoo, man. That's got that club level seating, man.
Club level
200 levels, man.
200 levels.
Oh, I need it than years past, let me tell you.
Well, yeah, a little cheaper. The product kind of a little bad this year, but 37.5 wins. Give me the over, baby. I believed them in the beginning of the year to win 38 games. They are on pace, legit, exactly on pace to get 38 wins. So, like those Vegas odds were dead on accurate. Their definition of mediocre, but they had a nice little win over Zion Williamson and the Pelicans. Kind of shocked they beat that team because that's actually a good team. But and the Bulls get a freebie tonight against the Detroit Pistons. So, thank you very much, Detroit. For the free
hey, speaking of the Detroit Pistons, we all know they're bad. But two things, they got screwed in that game.
No, they got robbed.
They got screwed.
They got robbed.
I get it. The passion for that. And it had me thinking when I saw like how bad of a no call that was. Like, who has worse? And this is, I don't want to make this a huge topic because we got to get into stuff. But who has worse refs, the NFL or NBA? I think it's the NBA.
I think it's the NBA.
Probably.
The NBA, because they also emphasize it with the last 2-minute report, and then you see them miss like 5 calls in 2 minutes. I'm like, how's that even possible? I'm just like, and I don't know how like refs get like penalized. Like refs are like a grading system.
And you can't criticize them openly either.
Yeah, you criticize them, you get fined. Like, you get fined a lot of money. Like, I ain't gonna criticize and get $100K fine, man. But that's just me. But yeah, ref. That was an atrocious ending because he got absolutely mugged. And he was right in front of him. Like I think the ref was just so shocked that he just like forgot to do his job because like it's plain as day. Like I was rooting for the Knicks because I had a bet on them. Like thank God the refs bailed me out because they did not deserve to win that game.
They were helping out all the FanDuel boosts there, Zoo.
Dude, the FanDuel Super Boost, man. They hot, man. They hot. 4 for 4, man. 4 for 4 last night.
I don't know. Shout out to the Detroit Pistons. They're in a dire situation, but hey, they paid Monty all that money, so they're going to see this through. Jesus. Pretty sure. I mean, I don't think they're in a situation where they probably let him go. So they're going to have to see.
He can afford the fine, man. Come on.
Yeah, he really can. He really can. Yeah. And you know, sometimes like the teams will sometimes pay that. I'm pretty sure the team is sending him a memo that's like, "You got this, big dog.
Yeah,
we're not going to circumvent that fine for you. No, you got to take that." So, speaking of the NBA, man, we're getting into post All-Star break and. There's a couple of teams. If say I don't know, you watched the NBA 4 years ago and just picked it back up, you look at the Western Conference, and you just see like the Timberwolves and the Thunder being at the top. That would be pretty shocking to a lot of people. Yeah. So I kind of started thinking with the history of the NBA and just how the playoffs work and young teams and things of that nature. Who would you be more shocked by if they made the finals, the Timberwolves or the Thunder? And Peebush, I'm gonna start with you.
Man, I mean. Talk about both these teams, Zoo. You just mentioned the Bulls being 38 wins, mediocre. That was both of these teams last year, man. I mean, looking on the Thunder side, right? They missed Chet all last year. Obviously, he had that freak injury in that I don't even know what you call it,
summer league
game, kind of something like that. Where they actually ended up shutting down the game pretty much right after that, and realizing that the floor wasn't that great. So unfortunately, the Thunder, I think they had about 41 wins last year, Zoo. They've already matched.
They were a play-in team last year.
38 wins, I think it was. And they already matched that win total as of right now, and it's the end of February. And on the Timberwolves side, they're already approaching the amount of wins that they had last year. I think it was around 41 or 42. So both of these teams have, at least in my opinion, probably leaning more on the T-Wolves side, exceeded expectations by a ton. I'd say people saw the Thunder coming the past couple of years. Just really wanted to see how Chet was going to end up integrating into this system. Obviously, we know guys like Lou Dort, who's definitely earned his contract there as kind of a 3-and-D guy. Obviously, SGA. Jalen Williams, man. Woof, that guy.
I like him.
I keep forgetting, man. He finished second in Rookie of the Year voting last year, and he still was able to take a nice jump this year. He's probably been the difference maker outside of the point guard, SGA, and Chet Holmgren holding down the front, I should say. He kind of gets bodied by a lot of big men. But I'm going with the Timberwolves, man. I think I'd be a little bit more surprised to see this team. They did not change much. They had already traded D'Angelo Russell last year entering into the playoffs. So it's not like they were getting rid of, Mr. Ice in his veins over there.
Oh, my God.
He was gone by the time playoffs came around. I'm looking at this team and I'm saying, what changed? Their core four is the same. Conley, Ant, Rudy Gobert, and Cat. Cat is healthier this year. We got to give him credit. And they just needed that year to get their chemistry. They needed spacing. They needed their roles. All that stuff figured out, especially Gobert and Cat down low. They finally somehow figured it out. Gobert's numbers didn't really change. Cat's a little bit up in efficiency. Obviously, we know Ant-Man. And then you just got Conley there. So I'm looking at this team and I'm thinking, man, how are they 40-17 and winning 70% of
crazy? It's crazy.
Nothing changed. Nothing really changed except for experience with each other, probably some camaraderie. I think this past summer, maybe the organization, maybe the guys had player-only meetings saying, hey, we just got to put our differences aside. We saw some fighting with Gobert on that team last year, and it seems like they finally just worked out the kinks. So if this team, it'd be weird to say if the Minnesota Timberwolves make the NBA Finals, I would be more shocked than the Thunder, just because I think, like I mentioned, we saw their trajectory coming. Maybe it's a little earlier, but I'm not that surprised that they're at least a top 3 seed in the West by the end of the year.
Yeah, as the Bulls GM AK would say, continuity, man. Continuity. This Timberwolves team came from a mediocre team to an elite team. They're an elite regular season team. This is a team that has a better record than the Los Angeles Clippers and the Denver Nuggets, who are, I would consider, elite contenders this year, especially out of the West. So they made an insane step this year. And as you mentioned, no really big additions. Well, I think their biggest addition by subtraction was at the end of the year they got rid of D'Lo. Like that was like, you know me, I do not like D'Lo. Like I think D'Lo is one of the most mentally weak, finesse, skinny, physically weak, mentally weak too. Like this guy, when he's in the playoffs, dude, not only that skinny boy gets bumped, man, he's missing his little lefty, like finesse 3-point shots, his little finesse floaters. Like he got no physicality. He's like the anti-Ant-Man. Like he's just got none of that like physicality. And I'm like, when he gets touched, like this guy's just not built for the play. There's some guys that are built for the playoffs and built for the regular season. D'Lo's built for the regular season. He gets you 20 points, look all good, drop his 3 balls. But in the playoffs, man, he gets figured out because you got to think the game. And there's a quote of D'Lo saying, man, sometimes I just want to go out there and play and not think. I'm like, if you're in the playoffs, you got to think.
Yeah.
You got to think. You know what makes LeBron and Jokic great? You got to think the game. You got to outsmart your opponent. D'Lo's like, I don't want to think, man. This is why you're just absolute garbo. Like, I don't want you on my lineup. And there's a reason the Lakers try to ship him out. Because they know this guy's not a playoff performer. He might be a nice regular season performer, get you 19, 20 points. But in the playoffs, LeBron knows that this guy ain't that dude.
Yep.
Like a guy like Caruso, I would obviously rather have. Because that guy's physically tough.
They got him
not as obviously as talented, but the guy's just way better on every
They got him out of there before LeBron came in the first place, man. Come on.
Man. Yeah, exactly. So I'm just telling you.
That was it. Crazy they didn't sign him back.
Yeah. So, like, D'Lo out was one of the most tremendous moves the T-Wolves make, man. But I got to agree with you. Because I'm talking about this Thunder team because they really remind me of the Denver Nuggets. Because I remember when the Denver Nuggets were a mediocre team, bunch of young guys, they make that jump, and they were, like, one game out of the playoffs. I don't know if you remember that season. Russell Westbrook hits a 3-pointer at the buzzer. This is his triple-double MVP.
Oh, yes.
Knocks him out of the playoffs.
He
hits a game-winning 3. So they were like right there at the bubble, and pretty much they would have been in that play-in range, similar to OKC last year, right? OKC last year, they lost in the play-in tournament. SGA balled out. I remember Josh Giddey balled out in the play-in tournament game, but they weren't able to get it done. So they were at that cusp, and then boom, you get Chet Holmgren, an elite young prospect who's playing as good as any young big man in the game right now. Like Chet Holmgren showing he's a two-way guy. Like not only is this guy like he might look skinny, but I'll like compared to D'Lo, this guy's physically and mentally tough. I think, man, he's got that physicality to him, even though he's a skinny guy. Like he plays tough basketball, all down there getting rebounds and blocking shots. So I'm telling you, the pieces fit perfectly. Like obviously, right now, like I think the biggest factor outside of these two teams is the matchups, man. It's the playoff matchups right now. Like that 1-2. Yeah, like I do not want to play the Denver Nuggets.
No,
because Nikola Jokic will eat up Chet Holmgren.
Yes.
That skinny boy, man. Oh my God, he's gonna eat his ass up, man. So I gotta avoid the Denver Nuggets at all costs. And not gonna lie, the T-Wolves probably match up the best against the Denver Nuggets. Because you got Cat, you can put Cat on him. Like Cat's not the greatest defender, but he's big and he's strong. And you have Rudy Gobert as the defensive anchor that helps on him. So they can play different bigs against them. And they got what's his name? Naz Reid? Naz Reid off the bench. So they got a rotation of bigs. The thing is with Jokic, you got to play different bigs against them. That's what like gave Jokic problems was that Lakers team back in the bubble when he had Dwight Howard back in the day and Anthony Davis. So they had a rotation of bigs they used to give Nikola Jokic different matchups. So not going to lie, for the T-Wolves on a matchup perspective, they match up a little better than the Thunder. But if the Thunder can avoid that matchup, I feel like they can make a run because not going to lie, that gauntlet of making to the finals, like I'll be shocked both these teams make. I'll be absolutely shocked both these teams make it. Like in my mind, they have a less than, like they might be 1-2 right now, but on a percentage-wise, in my mind, I'd probably say less than 3% that these teams make the NBA Finals. Like, in my mind, like, I will be flabbergasted if they were able to beat the Denver Nuggets in a Los Angeles Clippers team or even a healthy Phoenix Suns team. I'll be flabbergasted if you make a run.
A little like the Donovan Mitchell Jazz, the Jeff Teague Hawks.
Exactly. Like, my perfect, like, Donovan Mitchell Jazz with Rudy Gobert, that's the T-Wolves. Defense. Like McDaniels is a lanky defender. Mike Conley's a good leader and defender. So Ant-Man's a two-way guy. So they're a defensive guy. On offense, kind of limited. Like I love Ant-Man, but if you double team Ant-Man, try to make someone else be a perimeter scorer, who is it? Like McDaniels, he's not there yet. Mike Conley,
going to start taking threes.
Yeah, and you're going to trust on Cat to be the go-to guy. We saw him in the playoffs. Like sometimes he goes off, but he has those games where he's a little mentally shaky too. Like his three's not going in. He doesn't really go in the post. So, like, you're going to trust Cat to get it done if Ant-Man's taken out of the game? I don't think so. So, I'm definitely out on the Timberwolves for me personally because, like, the OKC, they got a little more mystery, too. Because we have not seen him in the playoffs yet.
That's true.
We have not seen SGA in a playoff setting, like, when he's this caliber of a player. So, we're going to see him. We're going to get to see Jalen Williams, and we're going to get to see Chet Holmgren. So, there's a lot of mystery there. I think that's the reason I'm leading OKC because there's a little more mystery on that team.
So you would be less shocked if the Thunder made it.
Yeah, because I just look at the pieces and I think they fit perfectly. Like I think the next thing they have to do is get rid of Josh Giddey because people put centers on Josh Giddey because he can't shoot threes. Like you need a guy that can shoot threes. So get rid of Josh Giddey. Try to get another 3-and-D wing type of guy to complement your stars because they got stars. You got the head of the snake, you got the defensive anchor, and you got the wingman. So get another off guard, off the ball guy. Exactly. Get another off guard that can hit some threes, play some defense, pass the ball to fit that lineup. So man, that OKC team just fits, and I'm always rooting for the GOAT GM Sam Presti. So
I was just gonna say, Zoo.
Man,
you already know he's got Giddey trades on his mind.
Dude, I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you.
He's got to get him out of
cooking this offseason.
Fresh start.
He's cooking offseason. So I'm leaning OKC, but I'm still giving him like a 3% chance of making the finals.
Yeah.
So very low. Very, very low.
When I first introduced the question, I was thinking to myself, like, well, they're not going to make the finals. I would place a bet on that right now that either of them are not going to be in the finals. But when I was going through and just looking at the teams and seeing like, okay, what are some reasons why they could make the finals, why they couldn't? This league that we watch in the NBA, we've kind of seen how it's set up. You kind of got to go through wars before you actually get to the promised land. And that's not to say Minnesota's gone through every war, but, the first thing I thought about when I was thinking about the playoffs with these teams was, they played Memphis really tough in that series. Like, we almost kind of
they should have won. They should have won that series.
We almost thought they were going to be able to get them. because
Yeah.
Anthony Edwards kind of had his coming out party of being like a star. Ja matched him mano a mano, so that kind of nulled it. But you saw Cat make some plays and stuff like that, and that was just kind of a maturation process. So to me, I almost would be more shocked that the Thunder would make it. And the only reason why, one of the biggest reasons why I think that is, there was some chatter around the trade deadline about them trying to get like another backup big. And it was actually one of you guys' favorite players, Daniel Gafford. And he ended up going to the Mavericks. And I think it was Sam Presti was just like, it's too rich for my blood. I don't know what he went for, but he was like, I'm not paying all that for Daniel Gafford. So you're just like, I'm good. And you just brought that up, Zoo. That's going to be one of their detriments. Whether it's Jokic, I think if they play Anthony Davis, that's going to be barbecue chicken. I think, if they play the Timberwolves somehow, like that's going to be I don't know when that would be, but, you got Gobert and Cat. If he wants to get down low, he could abuse Chet. So that's going to be a major issue. I also think, to your other point you made, like the matchups with the Timberwolves and all of the teams that are, this can change, but all these teams that are currently in the playoffs and playing, they match up well. Like those bigs that they have are versatile. One of the biggest reasons why they're playing this well, and I think they're making this next step, is because Anthony Edwards is the guy. Cat, like I give Cat a lot of credit. He's like, people make fun of him online, and he does a lot of goofy stuff. But his ego, had to. I'm not saying it got checked, but it got humbled a little bit, and it's no shade in him because he's the number 2 guy on a. They're the number 1, number 2 seed. Yeah, like he's a dude. So like, everybody can't be the dude, but he's one of the dudes. So he, taking a step back, realizing Anthony Edwards is the guy, has helped Anthony Edwards become a better player. I like Jalen McDaniels as a guy that's a swing piece that you can use on different guys that are wing scorers. And I just think Anthony Edwards taking the charge, Gobert, we know he's a defensive guy. We know what he's going to be able to do. He's a lob threat. Everybody on that team understanding their role, I think is very beneficial. And with OKC, I love Shea. I think if it was a playoff series, he's going to show up, but, Chet is basically a rookie. And to ask a rookie just to come in and be I guess you could say maybe a number 2 or number 3 option on that squad, that's asking a lot. I don't see a scenario where it's, the fourth quarter and they're down 5 and, Shea's got 4 fouls on the bench that Chet's going to go off on a 7 or 8, 9, scoring run by himself. Not saying he doesn't have the talent to do it, but that's just going to be hard to envision. And it's just a process, I think OKC right now is ahead of schedule. I would feel a little bit more comfortable if they got another big, even if they just got like a rugged big. For them not really having anybody behind Chet.
Should have been Drummond, man.
I'm about to say that Andre Drummond would fit perfectly on this team. Yeah,
they could have. Perfectly. I don't know what the asking price was for him, but it's just tough. So Minnesota, they're kind of like how I was looking at Orlando. Now Jonathan Isaac got hurt the other night, so that kind of dampened my belief about the freaking Magic, and he's had
every year
5 knee injuries.
Every year,
it's incredible. It's crazy that he's still able to play in the NBA. But they're kind of like how I look at Orlando. Like even though Orlando is like kind of teetering to play in the final spot,
the 8th seed.
I kind of look at Minnesota as like, it would not be shocking, even though I put them in this group. Like I could see them making a run because if say they were to match at Denver, I know Gobert has mixed feelings on this podcast, but he does his job well. And I think to your point with Jokic, like if any of the guys who are elite scorers and elite players in this league, you're not stopping them. But if you're bothering them and it's making, like I said, he's having to work harder and maybe come to fourth quarter, you're a little bit tired, and then now you have to depend on Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon. Like, those are not bad options to depend on. But, if you got Anthony Edwards that's fresh and you got Cat that maybe can pull Jokic out or whatever, there's just a lot of options with that team. I like them a lot. I'm just interested to see how they are, once they get when they make the playoffs, once they get to that first series, like what their matchups are going to be and how they play. Like, I'm just interested to see how it's because with the West, how many games back? I want to say like a lot of between 2 and 3 is only 3 or 4 games separating. It's not a lot of games. So a lot of guys don't know how. A game
and a half.
We don't know
how
the
3rd and 4th seeds to the first seed.
We have no idea.
Yeah, it's extremely close right now.
So yeah, I think I'm lead more Timberwolves. Like I'd be or the Thunder. I'd be more shocked if they made it. But either of these teams for sure are going to be in the playoffs. And I don't know, man. We'll see.
I'm gonna make a prediction right now for these 1-2 matchups. I wouldn't be surprised they get upset in the first round.
Both of
depending
them.
on the matchup. Yeah.
It's possible.
You're right, because it's the Lakers, Warriors, and Suns down.
Yeah, if it's a LeBron and AD team or a Luka Doncic team, I don't know. Man. I got to put my money on Luka. I got to put my money on Luka and LeBron. That's all I got to say.
Yeah,
they're battle tested.
I think if I'm the Lakers and I'm looking up there at the top, like I think I would want the Thunder more just the matchup with AD.
I'm taking.
I don't know if the Timberwolves might be. They match up
pretty well. They
got guys they could bother AD and then wing defenders for LeBron. And now you're looking at a situation where to your point about D'Angelo, you got a D'Angelo versus Anthony Edwards on the perimeter. Yeah, that might spill along. And same thing with the Warriors. Same thing with the Warriors. Like I know their team. I'm not high on their team at all, but like
they're playing a lot better.
Steph could give you 2 games of just nuclear mode, and now you're in a 2-2 series and best of 3. You don't want to go get Steph. And then to your point, if you avoid both of those two, and then you get KD, Book, and then all of a sudden Beal is healthy. He's been hurt all year. He's healthy going into the playoffs. Yeah. You don't want to touch it.
Grayson Allen raining from 3 in the corner.
Yeah, that guy's going for 50, 40, 90. Yeah, crazy.
He's playing himself into a massive. And some might say it's because of the team he's on, which it probably is, but he's still got to hit those open shots. He's gotten better.
Yeah. There's always guys like that in the NBA, man. They get contracts because of the team around them.
But he can shoot it. He shot it well. He shot it well in Milwaukee, and I feel like Milwaukee misses a guy like Grayson Allen.
For sure.
Who did they? Is Pat Connaughton still there?
Yep.
Or is he just not playing at all? I don't know.
Yeah, Pat Connaughton.
But so we'll see with those teams. But topic of conversation that we've mentioned a lot. Or not a lot, but early on these podcasts that we've had, just the face in the NBA, kind of got me thinking about just the tracks of a lot of the younger guys in the league and just, what are their pathways to maybe get to finals or taking the progression to get to the playoffs, maybe get to, conference finals and things like that. And I was looking at some of these guys are getting into the range of where they're in their mid-20s, some, late 20s and are kind of late-ish, early 20s, whatever you want to call it. But they're getting in the range where it's like, okay, now we need to start seeing not just conference finals and semis and, pat on the back and you get a second team all NBA. We need you to get us to the promised land. We need you to get us to the promised land and actually deliver. And there were 2 guys I thought of, and then Zoo put a third one in here. And one guy being Jayson Tatum for the Celtics and another guy being Devin Booker for the Suns. And everyone knows Luka Doncic plays for the Mavericks. So I wanted to kind of ask, just include Luka in this now, like, who do you think would benefit more from just a title run? And when I say title run, it's like when they get to the title, they win it. Like, everybody, 2 of these guys have already been to the title, but if they get to the title and they win it, and do go ahead and start us off with that, which I kind of already know where you're going, but
no, 100%.
Oh man, I gotta go with my boy Luka Doncic because this guy right now, I'm telling you right now, he's an MVP caliber player, but no one really talks about him in the MVP conversation right now. Because right now I'm in the media, I'm hearing obviously my boy Joker, I have him as number 1 too, so SGA. Whatever. But like 2, 3, I'm hearing SGA's name more. I hear a little more Tatum noise now because people bring up Tatum in the number 1 seed. Yeah. Even though I think Luka Doncic's year is absolutely ridiculous. Outside of the 73-point game where he broke history on one of the most efficient offensive showcases I've ever seen in my entire life, Luka Doncic putting up 34, 9, and 8. 34, 9, and 8. And I think he's going to go down as an all-time great. This guy's one of the all-time playoff performers already. Like against the Clippers is legendary, like what this guy's done. And that season against the Phoenix Suns where he ended them in Game 7 was one of the greatest performances I've ever seen in my entire life. So this guy just embarrassed the number 1 seed in the Western Conference that had fully loaded team. The team was fully loaded. So I'm telling you, Luka Doncic, for this guy, I feel like people are just like, I don't know. They just don't want to give him the MVP because of, I don't know, for some reason. I just feel like there's not enough hype of Luka Doncic winning the MVP trophy. And I feel like, oh, yeah, Luka Doncic last year was an absolute disaster. Missing the play-in tournament. Obviously, they tanked the last couple of games, but missing the play-in tournament in your prime, that's just embarrassing. And that's embarrassing. And he might not have Jalen Brunson no more, but he got a nice little Robin and Kyrie Irving.
He do.
And that guy's balling.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys watched that one game when Kyrie was fast breaking up and under, switching hands to the right hand. Kyrie Irving is healthy, first of all, which is the most important thing. And he's an absolute bucket. Like, Kyrie Irving's been an ultimate Robin. So he got his sidekick. And now after the trade deadline, like you mentioned, Daniel Gafford, you got some role players, man. So you got the sidekick. You got the sidekick. You need your Robin. And now you got a bunch of Alfreds, man. You got a bunch of Alfreds. You got your Derek Lively as a lob threat.
I like him.
Give me my lob threat, man. Daniel Gafford, my second lob threat. So if one dude gets in foul trouble, another center comes in and does the same exact job. I like that. You got Grant Williams out of there because that guy's just trashing the team for some reason. Yeah, he talking a lot of trash for a guy that's a role player. So they got Grant Williams out. They got him PJ Washington, a little new greener pastures. See what he could do. I'm still a little iffy on him, but he could shoot the ball a little. He's a really good athlete. That's the thing. He's a really good athlete. So I'm just looking at this roster. Like, you got right now, you're 33-24. You're the number 8 seed because the West is just stacked out of his mind. Yeah. Dude, just imagine they're at a 58 win percentage and they're the 8th seed right now. 58 win percentage. That's ridiculous. Like, if you're in the East, that's the 5th seed. So like they're not a true number 8 seed right now because the West is just godly. And if you can look at the roster, like Daniel Gafford, Tim Hardaway Jr. is a nice little nurse sniper out there. This guy's underrated. Like, this guy's numbers are booty, like straight garbage. Maxi Kleber, kind of underrated because he's a stretch 5 that can shoot. He's a stretch 5. I know you're rolling your eyes with Maxi Kleber, but this is a guy that plays playoff minutes because he guards the best players, a.k.a. a potential Kevin Durant. Like, that's his role. He's a guy that guards the elite wing defenders. And he's pretty good at defense.
He spends more time at the barber than he does practicing.
Oh, my God. No, Maxi Kleber is a good role player, man. He's a perfect role player. And shout out my boy Derek Jones Jr. I'm having a nice season with the Dallas Mavericks. So he's a really good defender, too. So they're just surrounding Luka with all these defenders, rebounders, lob threats, and shooters. And I feel like they have the ingredients to make a run with this roster because I think Luka Doncic is an all-time great. And when you're an all-time great, I want you to go to the finals, man. I want you to go to the finals. I remember that was my dark horse team in the beginning of the year. Dallas Mavericks. People were hating on them. This
is where it's coming from. I knew that's why you picked
them. They were my dark horse team because and they got a better roster now. They got a better roster at the trade deadline, and I like the role players. People know their role. Kyrie Irving as a sidekick. I am all in on the Dallas Mavericks, and I believe they can make a run depending on the matchup, man.
The Miami Heat have a better chance of making the finals than the Dallas Mavericks do.
Stamp it.
You know I'm right. And you know I'm right. And you know I'm right. And that should end the discussion right there. Luka Doncic does not have the most pressure to win an NBA Finals. I'm sorry. He doesn't. Even out of these three, not a chance. He's 24. He's got so much time.
He's actually younger than Tatum, which is...
He's younger than Tatum. Tatum's 25. Booker's 27. I still think, I know he's not on the list, but the superstar with the most pressure to win right now is still Damian Lillard. It will be until he wins. He was Chris Paul, but now he's just...
Now he's
going to hit Giannis at one point.
He's a bag of bones now, Chris Paul.
It was exactly right. So you kind of got to put it. It's Lillard, man. He's in his 30s, but we're on this young guys discussion. How do you not pick Jayson Tatum? The man is 6 for 6 in his first 6 seasons of making the playoffs. 4 for 6 on Eastern Conference Finals, making it, and he's been to the finals once. And you're saying he doesn't have any pressure, man? He's got the best team probably in the league right now.
Their stats on that team is kind of like they're in a historical rate.
Yeah, their regular season stats are unbelievable.
This is a historical team. They really don't have any major openings. I mean, we all know Jaylen Brown, right? Can't go left in his game in general, let alone in the playoffs. But to your point earlier about the tenacity of the playoffs versus the regular season when you were talking about D'Lo, man, you're looking at Tatum. Another guy who's also pressured to probably win an MVP, be the best player, take over the reins.
Yeah, this team. That's the thing. I know you. I'm surprised you said this because I remember you guys. I said Jayson Tatum was a top 10 guy and I put him in the superstar category. And you guys like, okay, he's like, you guys are a little iffy on classifying Jayson Tatum as a superstar.
Mentality.
Yeah. You guys are like, oh, Jaylen Brown's better than him, and I was like, okay, let's take it easy. Now. So I'm surprised for a guy that you don't classify as that guy. You put that expectation on him. All I'm saying is, I remember the Jayson Tatum slander a couple of years ago. Yeah, I'm not misremembering this. I'm not misremembering that.
Okay, but let me rebuttal with this. Jaylen Brown, I said there were moments in the playoffs where he was for sure taking over that team better than Jayson Tatum was, and you can't deny that. Tatum has, but that gives him more pressure. Because he hasn't been the guy who, in the regular season, man, he's a probably
top 5.
I could argue a top 5.
That's the thing is, in the regular season, I don't think he's a top 5 player.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. Nikola Jokic, I'm putting superstar, like, no doubt. Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid in the regular season is absolutely ridiculous.
When he's healthy.
And Giannis is a given too. Like, those guys are like, in the regular season, their numbers are absolutely dominating.
Who's 5?
I'll throw in. I can't say Brown no more, man. I can't say Brown.
Yeah, there's no default with LeBron anymore.
Yeah,
man.
There's no default.
Curry not this year.
Yeah, I was Steph Curry.
He's in the 5 to 10.
I would still put Curry. For
either way,
season.
man. Yeah. You're talking about this. This guy is supposedly, and now I disagreed with this because I don't think he's at that level of being the sole guy pulling in Anthony Edwards and literally taking the team away from a veteran. He doesn't even have to do that. He's with a guy that they were drafted right around each other, right? And he somehow can't be the guy to take over this team that is literally the 49ers of the NBA, man. They make every conference.
Wow. You calling him Brock Purdy?
He ain't Brock Purdy.
I don't know. That's what I heard in my mind, man. He has to get there, man. It's easy to get there, man. His team's too good.
He's not Brock Purdy, but my point is, I'm just saying, like, the team overall.
Yeah, I agree with you. They have the most talented team,
They have the most appearances. They're like the Bills in the 90s, man. They made 4
they make the Final Four like every year.
The Final Four every year. Gonzaga, whatever you want to compare them to, right? There's teams that just seem to underperform right at the last minute. I mean, dude, they almost got swept. I know they came back
that was
in
embarrassing.
4-7. They almost got swept by a play-in team. That's just embarrassing.
That was embarrassing.
That's on Tatum.
Bunch of G Leaguers, man.
So my point is, Zoo, I think he's a great player, but for some reason he doesn't reach that. He doesn't maintain the superstar level when it matters most, and that's where I think he has the most pressure. Devin Booker, he's made the finals, right? Now, obviously, so has Tatum.
Yeah,
right. So has Tatum.
Younger too.
He
did it younger too.
But I would say that Tatum has had better teams overall, in my opinion. DeAndre Ayton was a huge black.
Tatum has had a stacked team since Brown was in the East.
Yeah, Tatum has always been on a good team. I give you that.
I don't think he had a bad year in Boston.
No, he's 6 for 6 on playoff appearances.
No, he's always in the conference finals. He lives there.
So my point is, he's due. He's the most due of these 3 guys. Devin Booker, man, he's the second best player on that team. And when Bradley Beal's completely healthy, they're actually probably pretty comparable. If they're
let's take it easy now. No, Bradley Beal ain't on Devin Booker's level. No, he ain't on his level.
Bradley Beal was getting 30 though.
He was averaging 30 a game.
He was getting 30 and winning 30 games. That's what he was doing.
Devin Booker did nothing.
Booker was doing that too though, and until Chris Paul came. Booker wasn't going and winning a bunch of games until Chris Paul got there.
Exactly.
And Bradley Beal had Chris Paul. He'd probably be in the playoffs too, making.
I don't know about that.
In the East.
I'm just saying, I don't think it's a huge gap like people say.
No, it's not a huge gap. There's probably.
I think it's a huge gap right now.
Right now, yeah, because he's not 100%.
Right now,
yeah. But my point is that like Booker, he has better. Like I just don't think they have a full team. I mean, we talked about 4 guys.
Not a full team.
When they're not 100%.
They've only played like 22 games.
They're not 100%. My point is that this year, who has the most pressure? Right now. Luka Doncic, maybe for his career. Maybe for his career.
Yeah, man, because I got higher expectations for Luka, maybe.
I know you do.
I have lower expectations for Tatum because I have him as different category. Like I got Luka on the Pantheon, great. And Jayson Tatum is a nice superstar. So
yes,
I got different criteria.
However, Luka Doncic has plenty of time and can definitely put together a much better team than he has right now. Look at what the Celtics have done, man. I mean, they obviously drafted well, But I just think that Tatum right now, he's made it 6 years in a row to the playoffs. 66% of the time, he's in the conference finals.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's going to be in it again.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Right?
It's
So, I
crazy.
mean, the only thing is, and I'm interested to watch this, I know it doesn't affect him directly unless they face up, but Embiid's supposed to come back late next month. Right.
Yeah,
so can the Sixers somehow get it back together to be the true challenger of this team? Because I don't think the Bucks are 100%. I mean, they are not doing well under Doc Rivers.
Yeah, Doc Rivers.
5 straight road losses.
Good old Doc.
Good old Doc Rivers, man.
We can talk about that all.
I don't know. I just think overall, I just have Tatum. He's the most due, which therefore means he has the most pressure on top of his maybe not consistently poor playoff performance, but definitely a little bit of a roll.
Hey, let's not call him a playoff choker. This guy dropped 50 points.
No, but he's a bit of a roll. He's got those little kitty dips,
coaster,
man.
Yeah.
Okay, so he got a little AD in him. Huh? Got a little AD in him. Show up one night and little.
That's a little. Well,
I agree.
I want to compare it to AD because I feel like AD's is injury and he doesn't show up. I feel like in the playoffs he's showed up. Like in that series against Jokic and them, like he's
the Lakers.
Crazy. It's Jokic, yeah, but which is it's also another thing. Like with LA and Boston being the two premier franchises, this is like I think Tatum's, like to your point about the roller coaster, would be even more enlarged. It's crazy that it's not as enlarged in Boston, but like in LA, it would be. He'd be getting AD
blowing him up
because it's a different type of fan base.
Yeah, because it's Kobe.
Yeah,
he'll be compared to Kobe.
Him leaning into it too doesn't help.
Mm-hmm.
He leans into it a lot, which is cringe sometimes. But anyways, I to your point about Tatum, I was leaning him at first when I was going through and looking at different, comparison between him and Booker. Part of the reason why, I do agree with your point of like Luka's just in terms of all three of these or two of these players he's being compared to, he's in a different tier. So if you're in that Pantheon type of great tier, which Zeus says, I get it. You're going to be, have more expectations. But the more and more I kept thinking about it, I was like, you know what? Like Tatum, to P. Bush's point, he's had these roller coaster moments. He's had these moments where we don't know if he's the leader. He is the best player.
Yep.
And we kind of are just waiting for him to have when he's down 3-2, he's the man for game 6 and 7 where he just carries them through. Now, that's not to say, like you said, because people forget about that. I want to say it was the game 6 or game 7, whatever he had. He went crazy against Philly last year, where he kind of showed up with his game, and I understand it. But I started looking at it from a perspective because he kind of inserted himself when he was getting interviewed by whoever about being the face of the league. It kind of made me think about Devin Booker, because I started thinking to myself, like, Devin Booker, like Tatum, and this is the reason why I only did those two, because even with Luka being as good as he is, like he still hasn't hit a final. So like, as much as he is a better player than Tatum and Booker, like Booker, especially those two guys, are probably looking at Luka like, bro, you ain't been to the finals. Like, even though you're way better than me, you still haven't been there. So anyways, I think Booker's looking at it like, or his situation, like, he was kind of just a nice 2 guard before Chris Paul got there. Chris Paul got there. They had that team, Mikal Bridges. They were just a force, and they were able to get to the finals. They lost to the Bucks, I think, in 6. But he got a taste of that final. Same thing with Tatum. He went there, got beat by Curry. No shame in that. But I was thinking to myself, like, with the conversation around being the face of the league, I think if you were to combine, like, and I'm not saying Tatum has a bad game. Like, it's aesthetically pleasing. But, Booker is that bona fide scoring 2 guard. You got KD. You got Beal. This could be a really golden opportunity and pressure as well, because going into it, just looking on paper, and when the trade was made, I know last year was kind of a dub because it's like, you're trying to integrate during the season. And I know this year, Bill has been hurt. But if you're just looking on players, kind of the same thing you look at with the Clippers, even though we're not talking about them. Like, you got all this talent on paper. I'm going to need you to get to finals. I don't want to hear conference finals, conference semi. No, you need to get to finals. You got too much talent. Same thing with the Suns. Like, you got KD. I hear all the time about how KD is such a prolific scorer. Well, KD has been everywhere and has not done anything but win in Golden State, which some people will say has been a lot of extenuating circumstances. But when it comes to the all-time greats, a lot of people don't look into the details. They just see, well, you only have this, you only have that. They look at more black and white when you're talking about all-time greats. We only use details when we're talking about mid-level players, because you do it to try to make arguments. But I feel like you got KD. We know he's going to show up in the playoffs. I'm just going to assume Bradley Beal's going to get healthy. Hopefully he's not hurt going into the playoffs, but I'm just going to assume he's going to get healthy.
They'll need him.
Like we just said earlier in the podcast, Grayson Allen is I won't say a revelation, but he's a really, really good player. Warso Neal is a nice 3D wing.
Yep.
Like you got Nurkic is up and down, but if
Up
he's
and
healthy,
down,
he's
yep.
a solid big. He's a solid big when he's healthy.
He's Zubac.
Yeah, he's solid. So, you got pieces on this team. So I think for me, it's a little bit more pressure on Booker because I almost kind of think it would be. I know Tatum would probably get a lot of criticism. There's probably be a little bit from last year because how bad the Heat series was, and if he somehow flames out again, then it's going to look crazy. But I think with Booker, with the star, because one could argue like just star for star talent. Like most people, it might be a toss up between Bradley Beal and Jaylen Brown, but then like the third star and KD. I mean, or not saying he's a third star in that scenario, but you know what I'm saying. Like those are two massive stars. So you got those guys on that team. You trade away a lot of your assets. You got a lot of pieces around the edges that are really nice. And I know the West is a dog, but I'm gonna need you to get through that because to me, when we're talking about the face of the league, I think Devin Booker would be a prime candidate if he was to somehow get to the finals. And then I almost think in that situation in the finals, we all know he's not as good of a player as Kevin Durant, but I think Kevin Durant's personality, he might be like, yo, Book, go get this. Like, go get your finals MVP. I think he can do that. Because I know with Steph Curry, he was proving himself because he was trying to get titles and he was trying to be like, look, you guys called me for a reason. Couldn't get through LeBron. So
he was the reason. He was the reason.
So he did that now. But I think KD's so secure. Like KD, I think he's actually one of the all-time greats who, I'm not saying he doesn't care about the GOAT conversation, but he's just like, I'm a hooper. I'm just going to go hoop. I don't think he's into like the LeBron Jordan or like Curry is good like LeBron. Because Kevin Durant gets brought up, but not really like how people try to bring up Curry or LeBron and Jordan and stuff. So I think Kevin Durant is just like, yo, Book, go get it. And Book has that mentality. Like I know we like to do the Tatum and Kobe comparison, but I think Book is more apt in terms of just his go-getter. Because if you look at Book when KD first got there last year, like he didn't defer. He was still gunning and acting like he's a number one guy.
He's a scorer.
Yeah, he wasn't looking at KD like, okay, I'm going to let you get 30 and 40 for these next couple games and then integrate. He's like, no, come on, hurry up, figure out how to score on my team. Because at the end of the day, it is technically his team because he came to Phoenix. That's how people look at it. So I think if Book was able to get to the finals, somehow sneak out at finals MVP, I think he could start creating, not saying he would be, but he could start creating a case like, hey, I'm one of these massive faces of the league. Because then you get to a situation now where I always say this, man. Once you get the first one, it's just after that, it's gravy. It's just,
you don't overthink
now you're playing with house money. You're trying to figure like no moment is too big. Same thing how LeBron went through when he went to Miami, won his first one. Like once you get the first one, it's not saying you're going to get a bunch more after that, but you're just more of a contender into being in place to maybe get to finals and win again. So
you know what it takes.
I'm more looking at Devin Booker. He's also 2 years older, so he's kind of in that. Most of our stars in this league at 27, 28 start winning their first ring, and he's kind of in that.
Yep.
He's in that.
It's their prime.
He's in that realm. So he's kind of and Tatum's 2 years younger than that. He's not saying he's got time because he's only like I said, if he flames out this year, it's gonna start getting loud. Because to your point, in terms of booking Tatum's career, Tatum has had not a stacked team, but a really good team every year.
Oh yeah. So I would actually say he's been on a stack team in his entire.
Because they got Chris Stapps too. Like that's another.
Oh, that was
going to be probably a massive.
Derek White.
Yeah, Derek White.
He's another player. Good. That was a hell of a trade they got for that. I think they got
first round pick. First round pick. That's it. One first round pick.
Steal. But So to me, I think Book, his ascension this year, if he were able to get to finals and win an NBA MVP or not NBA MVP, but a Finals MVP, I like that. And to me, I don't like his game matches what you would want to be as the face of the league. Like respect to Jokic, Giannis. I mean, Luka's game is kind of aesthetically.
Oh, yes, it is.
Some people, yes, it is. Luka's weird. And this is how I look at Luka. I like his game and like watching his game, but it depends on who you are as a fan because it's a lot of I think I said this on this pod maybe a couple years ago, but what is the difference? And I'm not saying they're the same type of player and attitude, but what is the difference in terms of play style between him and James Harden? It's not a lot of difference.
Not much.
It's a lot of
dribbling.
I would say
a lot of dribble, and Luka's just more efficient. Probably.
Yeah, their play style. I said of that Mavericks team, identical. identical. Just a lot of isolation, a lot of pick and rolls, a lot of get mismatches.
And Harden's almost got to the finals with that. So
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
He's got to finals
Like
with
Luka,
that. So
I feel like Luka Doncic's mentality is the difference. His mental toughness, I think, is better than James Harden's.
I think he's just more laid back, Zoo. He lets things roll right off his shoulder. Like, he doesn't take it personally. He doesn't overthink it. He just plays. He's not.
Like,
I get what you mean, though, Sean. He's not exciting to watch.
No, I don't know.
No.
Not exciting.
You find him exciting because you've been watching the NBA for 20 years. I'm talking about a kid that's 10 years old. He's learning the game. He's not dunking the ball like Ja Morant. He's
not a crazy athlete
like Kyrie Irving is. But he's
skilled,
unbelievably skilled. It's like the same. Zoo, do you think people watch Jalen Brunson and say, "Wow, look at his footwork"?
I love Jalen Brunson. JB's bitty, man.
He's got He has fundamentals.
Yeah.
Shai Gilgeous, another great example.
Shai's another one, exactly. DeMar DeRozan. These guys are they are tactical in each move that they make, and that's what true NBA fans can appreciate and say, "Wow, he's got a great game." But he's not He is a face of the NBA, but he's not the flashy Derrick Roses, the Ja Morants, Zion Williamson. Those guys are all explosive. He's not explosive.
That's why Ant too. Like, that's why Ant's another one. Like,
too.
That's even though I didn't include him in this discussion. If they somehow get to the finals, he wins, and it's the face of the NBA. His game is His game is like
his game is perfect.
Just. Like, it's almost like microwavable. Like, just put it in there,
Kobe.
Like, pop. It's done. Like, it's
young Kobe.
He's in that Michael Jordan body. Kobe Bryant, Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, like
elite athlete. Like the two guard.
Yeah,
the two guard is if you get it to its apex and you're winning finals, that is like what the NBA wants to sell. Not saying like point guards can't do it and big men can't do it. Like, and of course explosive wings, but like guys who are above the rim who score a lot. LeBron is one of the rare ones where some would say his passing is better than the scoring, but like he still is an all-time leading scorer. But he's just a hybrid. But I'm just talking about most guys. Like, even look at back like Michael, Kobe, like Tracy McGrady, all the guys who Tracy wasn't maybe a face of the league, but just his game and his skill set just pushed it towards. And Luka better be careful because, to your point, Julie, I think he needs to get to the finals because he's about 2 or 3 years away from what is this? Because that type of his style with him controlling the basketball, I guess.
Yeah,
I'm not saying
it's very heliocentric basketball. It's like ball's in one guy's hand, and if you're a role player, like you're not gonna be touching the ball much, so you're not gonna be able to get in rhythm.
Allen Iverson.
Okay. I love AI, but Luka way better than AI, man. Luka way better too.
The way they play the game, though.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree that's a one-man offense. It's a one-man offense, man.
Great way to put it.
But Sean, an interesting point about Devin Booker. But for me, Devin Booker, I love Devin Booker's game. I love his mentality, too. He's a pure scorer. In the playoffs, he had some bad moments, too, just like Tatum. So I put him in the same category, too. In closeout games, Devin Booker has struggled. Like that Denver Nuggets series, which I would say was pretty even. I remember back and forth. Like it was like a heavyweight battle.
Him and Katie had hero games.
In game 6, 12 points on 4 for 13 shooting. You can't end like that. They got blown out. They lost by 25 points.
But the difference between him and Tatum is he lost to the NBA champion. Tatum was down 0-3, was choking in against. Like, I feel like the moments are different. Like, if you, like, to me, the same thing with Anthony Davis. He was going crazy, but guess what? You got smacked around by Jokic, who won the championship, right?
Okay.
You need to be better, but it's like, you lost to
I don't know. 4 for 13. Like, that's just like, if you lose, like, swinging, okay, whatever. I could deal with that, but that was just a bad game. 20. And then the year before that, we all remember the Game 7 massacre of the Mavericks.
That was disgusting. Yeah,
he shot 3 for 14. 3 for 14. He had 11 points on 21% shooting.
Crazy that game.
11 points on 21% shooting. Luka had 11 points in like 3 minutes against this dude. So, like, that's all I gotta say. Like, Devin Booker, I love your game, but in the playoffs, in these game-deciding games, like closing games, when you're got that Mamba mentality, you can't be shooting 21%. You can't be shooting 21% from the field.
At least 40%.
Kobe had some. I know.
Yeah, Kobe has some tough. I give you. Kobe has some tough.
We can't speak on it because we might get struck by lightning. But I'll just leave it there. I'll just leave it there.
I got a severe storm outside right now, boys. Let's relax.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, I forgot about this too. In the NBA Finals. So this is 3 straight years now for Devin Booker. In the NBA Finals, when they got beat by the Milwaukee Bucks, 8 for 22
Giannis,
shooting,
yeah.
only 19 points. 8 for 22 shooting. So,
Mm.
like the last 3 games when he got sent home, he was part of the reason why they
He could
got
be
sent
better.
home. So I feel like he got a lot to prove right now. And you got, like, I would still say the Suns is Devin Booker's franchise right now. Like, he's the face of the franchise. Kevin Durant is a mercenary. That's his Robin right now. KD's is his Robin. You better win some games in the playoffs. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. And then if Beal comes in healthy,
stack
yeah,
team.
they got him.
You got
That's what
Bradley
I'm
Beal as
saying,
a
like-
third option. That's a really
That's what I'm
good
saying.
roster. Really good roster.
If they're healthy, I feel like they're gonna have a
Eric Gordon, Grayson Allen got some snipers out there. Like they got some really nice like role players.
For them to have 3 main stars, they got a lot of dudes on the edges. So that's why I think their pressure is a little bit more than Boston's, just because. Yeah, I mean, you could almost say they're equal. I won't say it's more, but I feel like it's a little bit more. Just on paper, looking at the stars, you're like, why is this team not in the finals? So yeah, I don't want to hear no conference semis, no finals, and then once you get there, to your point, Book's gonna have to start exercising some demons and winning some games and closing out games, because
closing out games.
It starts. What do they say? It's like 2 or 3. It starts a trend. Like if he gets to a fourth, series where he's shooting 8 for 22. Or
I can't have that. I can't have that. I can't.
Especially if you're the defense, especially if you're
best
trying
player.
to win.
Yeah, best player shooting that bad.
Yeah. So we'll see. And for all we know, it could be a Tatum versus Book finals matchup, which would be crazy if that would happen, because then we could bring it back up. So I don't know who I would pick in that, but NBA is here. Next week, we're gonna be still talking NBA, but as you guys know, NFL draft is coming up. NFL free agency is coming up. We're gonna be excited to see like who are some different names that are gonna be probably on some contenders and making teams that have already maybe won the Super Bowl even more stacked. So make sure you guys tune into that at Tyson Talks on Instagram. Make sure you're looking at our YouTube, Quantrell Knows, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio. We are on there. So if you listen to our audio medium and you get on one of those apps, just make sure you give us a 5-star review so it can get in the algorithms. And for me, Zoo, and P. Bush, we are.